And we are live. How are you, Rabbi?
I'm great. Good to see you, Chaim.
Good to see you. How are you? How is the family?
Everyone's doing well, thankfully. We're making it through this.
Perfect. So we are here at Anshai Live. This is the first Facebook Live show of Congregation Anshai Torah. So we are starting something new. I think that the topic of today, which is Judaism during coronavirus, has created many different things that we're not used to. And this is one of those things, right? We're trying new things, ways to connect with the congregation, connect with the community in general. And we're here today. So we're going to talk about Judaism during coronavirus. So Rabbi, before we start, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I'm Michael Kushnick, obviously. Been a rabbi here at Congregation Anshai Torah in Plano for the past 7 years. We love our community. We love being here in the Dallas area. And certainly, as probably all of us have experienced over the past 3.5, 4 months, life has been changed in so many ways. Family life, work life, our children. I have 2 young boys that have not been in school, obviously, for the end of last year, and learning all of this. But at the same time, many people say things are closed, things aren't happening. And I think the reality is that's just not true in relationship to Judaism, that Judaism is alive and well. We're doing great things. There's so many wonderful innovations and opportunities to engage with Judaism. It just may not be what we were used to 6 months ago or 60 years ago.
So one of the things that we want to do today, this is something new. This is not like one of those Zoom meetings where you're just staring at somebody and you're not able to interact. This is a completely interactive program. So anybody who's watching us right now, let us know that you're watching. Say hi so we can say hi back to you. Like and share this video. And, we can display your comments here, your questions. So please ask us whatever questions you have. Please like and share this video. The way that this works is that the more you like it, the more you share, the more people we can help, the more information we can give out. So we already have some people saying hi, Rabbi. So we have Deb Schulman, Marcel,
Hi, Deb.
Roman, and we have Michael Roy saying hi.
Good to see you. I'm glad you're here, Michael.
Yeah, Esther Nathan also giving us a hi. So that's great. So we have already some people watching. So the topic today is Judaism during the time of coronavirus. We have heard coronavirus for everything, a little bit here, a little bit there. We know that coronavirus has changed the way that we live in our personal life, in our work life, but also in our spiritual life.
Yeah.
But not everything has been bad, right? I think survival is adapting, and we have adapted. So one of the things that we're going to talk about today is we have a few topics, Rabbi, right?
Sure.
We're going to talk about a couple different things. And I think that before we start, we have some, Dan is watching us. He said that he cannot see the stream in Facebook Live, but we have people watching us through Facebook Live, Dan. So I can put a comment here and see if you can click the message. He's watching us through YouTube. But Howard Abrams is watching us. Larry and Denise Polis is watching us. Cynthia Brooks, she's saying hi, buenas noches, good night. We have a lot of bilingual stuff here. So, Rabbi, yes. Judaism during the time of coronavirus. We know that coronavirus have affected different ways of our life. And one of the things that it's very critical to the life cycle in Judaism is mourning and Shiva. We cannot congregate now. We know that we don't do it because of Pikuah Nefesh, but we also don't do it because of county guidelines, state guidelines. So how coronavirus have affected and how we have been able to evolve in the practice of mourning and also being able to be there for our community members.
So it's, this is one of those life cycle events that I think is been really challenged. I mean, there's a few weddings happening, but most people have chosen to postpone weddings. Bar mitzvahs do happen, and bat mitzvahs, they may be smaller, and then a lot of the families streaming in. But mourning and the Shiva period has been really tested in some ways. Judaism is such a community-based religion, and I've said this numerous times, that of all the things the rabbis got right, the way they dealt with death and mourning psychologically was spot on. You don't run away from it. You don't run and hide and leave your emotions to yourself. Instead, you return from the funeral and the cemetery, and you surround yourselves with members of the community who are there to support you, provide food for you, provide your needs, so that you can focus on the anguish and the healing that can begin to take place only over time. And then they're there to be a hug and a shoulder to cry on. And so that's not happening. And that's not going to happen right now. But some of the other things that have really been absolutely remarkable is we've had a number of members in our community who've lost loved ones, unfortunately, during this coronavirus pandemic. And they've been allowed to, we had people fill all 7 days of Shiva because it's a bit easier. Where normally life gets in the way, you feel pressure to go to work or whatever the daily tasks may be. But as life has slowed down a little bit, it's allowed those mourners the opportunity to be in Shiva. And then furthermore, to be able to say Kaddish on a daily basis by having a Zoom minyan, as opposed to getting up and being at the synagogue at a specific time and being there. You've been able to join the minyan from your home, or take a 30-minute break from work in the morning, or 15-minute in the afternoon, and Zoom in for our minyan. And so people have been able to say Kaddish, and our daily minyan is really been strong because of a number of people who have done that. And furthermore, it's allowed people, we've had Shiva minions and the outpouring of support from across the world who've joined these Shiva minions, family members who probably would not have been able to make it to a funeral or to a Shiva on such short notice, are able to be there because we're doing Shiva virtually. I know we had it in Talia's own family. She lost a close family member in Israel right around Passover, and they had a virtual minyan, and we were streaming into this Shiva in Israel. And while it's different and it's not what we've wanted, there has, it's still happening, and it's just a bit different, and we need to reflect on that. And those who are very, very close are still present together in the same home to provide comfort, and then seeing faces from all over, and it's what we're doing. And again, there's some benefit to it.
And I think you touched on a very important point, because coronavirus have created some isolation. We're not able to see each other in the sense that we are in the same room. We are not able to partake on those everyday interactions. And mourning and Shiva, the whole principle behind it, where everybody gets together and brings food and allows you to, as you say, go through that process in a communal sense. By having these virtual minions, we are able to be there for these people, for these family members who have lost somebody. And not having them would have even been worse during the coronavirus, with the isolation and not being able to go anywhere and stay in your home. Right. But these minions have created that opportunity. Now,
so Chaim, you say something that was important. It's related to this, but it's just in general. Many people, are writing about and talking about, social isolation, that they don't communicate with people, they don't see people. And while there's some truth to that, in the physical proximity, I actually feel very different right now. I feel that I am interacting with people all the time. Yeah. We have our twice daily minyan. Before and after, people are having conversations like normal, and in all these different settings that we're with people. And yes, I wish I could shake a hand, give a hug, with somebody and sit close to them. But at the same time, I feel like I'm not isolated. I am totally engaged with people. And we just have to allow ourselves that opportunity and to engage however ways we find ourselves.
Well, and going through that, let's jump to another topic. Let's go to our second topic of the night. We have a big show prepared to everybody. So we're going to talk about Shabbat and holidays. And I have some questions about that, Rabbi. And some of the people watching us have some questions about it. Now, we cannot go through the whole Judaism during coronavirus without touching Shabbat. Shabbat, from the moment of going to services to sitting down and having a meal after services. I can tell you right now that I have gotten bagels and lox and have that for lunch on a Shabbat day, on a Saturday day, because I miss my bagels and lox.
Right.
It's a whole thing. You don't think about it. You don't think about those little things that become part of your everyday interaction. And Shabbat is a very important thing for my family and for many of our members. So what are we doing on Shabbat? What's going on? And I have a question that I want to ask because it's part of our community and it's a question asked by one of our members. And I don't know if we can start with that in the sense of creating the response of why are we doing what we're doing? So what was the basis of the Rabbinical Assembly decision to allow Shabbat or Zoom on Shabbat? And this question comes from Warren Harmel. Warren, hello, Warren.
Great. So thank you for the question, Warren. So there's a lot of things that went into this decision overall. But I think we need to take a step back and recognize it's probably not, when they say we're allowed to stream out Shabbat services now, it's not the way that many of us think about Zoom. Mm-hmm. It's not the interactive Zoom. There's, first of all, no chat. There's, and really it's supposed to be done with minimal manipulation of your computer. Mm-hmm. So from the synagogue, it's how we've really been operating, at Anshai Torah. We put in, as some of you may know, a camera, and it's all automated. So when we walk into the shul and we do a Shabbat morning service, those at the synagogue are not touching anything. It's just automatic and being done. And then at home, if you need to open your computer, you can open your computer and theoretically should be able to do it with as little manipulation of your computer as possible. In theory, just as they've done many years ago about driving a car, perhaps opening your computer and doing a driving aren't necessarily in themselves inherently problematic activities. But the problem that your computer can pose, if you're comfortable using electricity, and that's the question, right? If you're comfortable using electricity, opening your computer, having Zoom already loaded or the YouTube channel, whatever it may be, may not be problematic. But then do you then go and check your email? Or do you go and, go to Amazon and start shopping? All of those things are problematic on Shabbat and we shouldn't be doing. So the basis is to live stream, to allow people to be present with Shabbat, but without the other things, may inherently be okay. And I think the other thing that conservative Judaism has always wrestled with is, how do you live in the modern world and maintain your tradition of Judaism, the halakha, the Jewish law? Mm-hmm. And I think here is a really important question. So since the middle of March, would it be better that we don't allow people to experience Shabbat services? Or would we allow a little bit of maybe manipulation, again, not going to a point where we break traditional Jewish law, but in the ways that we understand it as conservative movement, to allow people to engage with Shabbat? And it's the same thing that we did with driving years ago. People lived too far away from the synagogue when the birth of suburbans happened. Well, do people never go to shul on Shabbat, or should we allow them to go to shul on Shabbat? It's the same type of question, I would think.
So another question that we have, and this come from Gail, what changes in the service do we anticipate for the high holidays? And the reason why I picked this question is not that we are going to speak about this, because as you know, and as our congregation know, a message has come from our senior rabbi that we're working on finding a common ground to what these high holidays would look. The reason why I bring this question is not that we can respond to Gail directly and tell her what the changes will be, but that we can talk a little bit about now the high holidays or the holidays that are coming. And we know that these holidays will be affected by coronavirus. So where do you see 2020 high holidays during the coronavirus?
Well, let me say, Chaim, first, and Gail, thanks for the question. First of all, I don't have all the answers. I mean, many of the leadership know that Rabbi Weinberg and I have been hard at work for this for weeks, if not months now, trying to envision what this would be, and we're moving forward as you've seen over the last week or so with our announcement, and it was one of the hardest decisions I think anyone that I've ever seen have to make, to imagine that the holidays where we love walking into Anshai Torah and synagogues all around the world and see them packed with friends and family and people we don't see so often, and really give us that sense of Jewish pride, that sense of that we're part of a people. Yeah. So to not do that was incredibly painful. But I do think that no matter what we do, 5781's high holidays are going to be a high holidays that we remember for a long time and maybe talk about forever. Yeah. Right?
It will be one of those that it will be in the history of practices of Judaism.
Right. I won't ask you what sermon I gave last year on Kol Nidre, but if I ask you in 5 years what was special about 5781's high holidays, everyone's going to be able to answer.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I think we just need to keep in mind. What I'll say, Gail, is I think we're trying to keep as much of the essence of what makes Anshai Torah who we are, what is so special about our shul on the high holidays, and find ways of incorporating that into our virtual service. Yeah. And I think that's the guiding principle of what we'll see. I think there'll be a lot that will be familiar to people. There'll be a little bit that's probably different because we'll be in our own homes as opposed to the synagogue. But let me just say one thing about this, Chaim. It's related to this, is I think part of what's going to make the high holidays successful is what people do in their homes, right? If services start at 9:30 in the morning and you roll out of bed a little bit before and you stay in your pajamas and you sit on the couch in your pajamas and you watch whatever the service is going to be, I think you're going to have a tough time finding a holy spiritual moment.
Of course.
But if you get out of bed and you have some of that routine that you would normally have, and I'm not saying you need to put on your fancy suit or dress, but if you make yourself feel like you're going to shul and put on your talit if you wear one, and have a kippah on your head, and make somewhere in your home, at least for that 2-week period over the high holidays, your holy place, right? Where is it going to be? Is it going to be your dining room table? Is it going to be a couch you don't sit on very often or something? That's going to be your place that's holy.
So a big message on this is that it's not just what, let's say, our rabbis and the community, and this goes beyond. We know that these holidays will not be the same for every shul. This is not just one shul. Every community will be affected. Every community is affected. Every member of the Jewish community is going to be affected. And this message goes beyond the walls of our congregation. Is the way that these holidays, as you mentioned, and please tell me if I'm on the right track on this, the way that these holidays can be meaningful to you is not just what you're receiving, but how are you receiving? How are you taking this whatever it is that is being put to provide this high holiday service, but it's how you're taking it in, right?
Exactly. I mean, so let's look back to Pesach, right? Which was not even at the very beginning of this, right? I mean, we went into quarantine, lockdown here, immediately after Purim, literally like 2 or 3 days after Purim ended. So Pesach, at our home, which, we would have had a huge Seder of people, and we set our table the exact same way we would have if, we didn't put out all the extra tables, but we put out our fancy tablecloth. We put out all of our Passover dishes, all of the Seder, we made it feel like it was special, even though it was only the 4 of us in our table.
Yeah.
And I would say do the same thing for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. So, make yourself a festive Rosh Hashanah meal and sit down for that after we have, evening services on both days of Rosh Hashanah. On Yom Kippur, before Kol Nidre, whatever big meal you normally put together or eat at somebody else's home, do it. And then go right from that to joining us for Kol Nidre.
Yeah.
And from there, if it's bagels and lox chaim, as you said, whatever your tradition is for breakfast, have breakfast.
And it is that for me.
It is for me too.
Yeah.
With some whitefish, hopefully. But
do the whole thing. Go through the experience. Leave it.
Yeah, we have to. Judaism Judaism has never been a religion where the rabbi performs the rituals for you, right? If you come to shul any year on the high holidays, and you just watch what we do on the bima, and you don't actually partake in any of it yourself, I would challenge that you don't leave with a particularly moving experience in of itself.
Yeah.
And so this year, I think we're going to be able to provide very meaningful content as well.
Yeah.
It's going to be different, but it's going to be very meaningful content. But I challenge each of us to do, what are we going to do at home to make sure that we allow ourselves to be moved over the high holidays?
Well, Rabbi, and to finish this segment and then before we go to the next one, I wanted to ask you that because you say challenge, and Sukkot will come soon after that.
Yep.
And I was thinking about it, and you and I had a brief conversation about this, and for me, that is a holiday that is going to mark a very important experience for many families. Many families rely on our congregational Sukkot for the celebration of Sukkot. Not many families have the tradition of having their own sukkah at home. And I think this is the year. This is that year where you can live through that holiday and experience it at the full. And even if you have, we've seen all the pictures in Jerusalem, in the small apartments, where even if you can put a sukkah in a small balcony, you can find a space in your backyard, right? So sure. I think that's one of the holidays. So what do you think about that? We will have many experiences to experience Judaism, and I think Sukkot is a very important one.
I mean, first of all, if you've never, in general, any year, if you've never had a sukkah in your backyard, it's one of those most memorable experiences. I think our favorite day as a family in our Jewish life is the day we all go outside and start building our sukkah. We all look forward to it. It's maybe it's because it's partially my favorite holiday of the year. I just love being outdoors and experiencing that. So that, yes. And I would say, first of all, Sukkot may provide us a little bit more flexibility. It's an outside holiday. It's a little bit later. Let's hope that and pray that we may be able to be, even if it's in smaller groups outside in a sukkah communally. I have no idea, but I sure hope that's the case. But either way, I think you're totally right, Chaim. If you have the materials to build a sukkah, this is the year to take them out of your attic or wherever they are and build it. And if you don't have the materials, please be in touch with me or anyone. There's very easy kits you can buy, or if you're a little bit handier than I may be, a couple pieces of 2x4 and some.
A trip to one of those local hardware stores will help. We'll give you everything that you need, right?
Right. And I'll say, I can't believe I'm already thinking about Sukkot in this way, but a good sukkah is supposed to be able to fall down in a strong wind. So even if you don't think you're the handiest person, you're actually probably making a very kosher sukkah. And so it would be a good thing to do. And I highly encourage it. If you need any help, I'm certainly happy to help every single person think about how to do it. I probably can't do it for you, or you wouldn't want me to, but I'm certainly happy to help you think about constructing it.
Perfect. So before we jump into our next segment, I want to say a couple of highs because we have a lot of people who have joined us, Rabbi. So Nicole Roy. Hi, Nicole. We have Gail, who asked us a question, and now she says hi. Diane Kufer, Alan and Diane Kufer. Hello. Debbie Jacobs-Cohn, it's there. We have Sylvia. Sylvia says that she's looking forward to this. So Glenn and Sylvia are watching the show. Howard Abrams, he's giving us a good evening, and very important, please like this stream, share the stream. That way we can, send this message down the social media highways and people can see this. So Rabbi,
Yes.
Our next topic, we talk about the holidays, we talk about Shiva and mourning, and the next topic, it's a topic that is important for many people. It's family. You mentioned family. You mentioned the experience that you and your wife went through at the moment of a Shiva. But we have to also look at a silver lining through this whole thing, right? I mentioned to you that Fridays for us have been a way of getting into a Zoom chat with family members that we don't get to see. Family in the US, outside the US, and I know that many people are doing that. We are finding ways to reconnect to family that is far apart, but I think at the same time, we're finding ways to reconnect with the family that we have inside our four walls and our roof. We have to spend more time with our kids. We have to spend more time with our significant others. And how is this Judaism during coronavirus affected us, either positive or negative?
I think it can be really positive. And I really think it's about the way we look at it, right? If we look at it in the lens of saying, shul's not happening in the building, religious school's not meeting, I can't celebrate because my aunt and uncle, I can't go to their house for such and such holiday, or my the grandparents of the family are not hosting Shabbat dinner and inviting everyone over, so we can't celebrate Shabbat. If that's the vision, the lens that we look at it, yes, everything is really stopped. But if we can look at it in the other way and say, all right, this is what we're facing. Judaism is not supposed to stop, right? Whether we're in a pandemic or anything else. So how do we make the best of it? And I think if we can use that model, that lens, there's really actually incredible things happening with Judaism right now. And it may change a lot of the ways we think about we think about how we practice Judaism in the long run. Not to say that it won't be in person. I think Judaism always needs to be in person. But family is really the core of this. People are home now on Friday nights, right? The athletics or whatever, the movie, whatever was drawing somebody to do something else on a Friday night is not. And I think we're seeing this. I mean, and we see it at Anshai Torah, and I think we see it all across from colleagues that I've talked to. Our Friday night service attendance, for instance, has been incredible. I mean, we are routinely getting close to 100 families Zooming on. That's a few hundred people every Friday night. That's amazing.
Yes.
And colleagues across the country are reporting the same thing, that increased engagement. So join our Kabbalat Shabbat service. It ends at 7:15 now. You don't have to go anywhere. You then can walk from wherever you're Zooming in to Shabbat dinner. Or if your kids are really younger, you can do Shabbat dinner before. But make Shabbat dinner around it. Chaim, you mentioned, I get to now try to most nights at least put my kids to bed before I jump on some kind of program after.
Yeah.
This is the perfect time to get in the routine of saying Shema with our children every night, so that they can hear, if we can do it for a couple months in a row, a couple weeks in a row, that you say this blessing, right? Thanking God, and praying to God that there's one God, right? We say it in the morning, we say it in the night, and this comfort that we can give our children that Judaism is connected with them. Havdalah, right? Again, is another really beautiful thing. But then there's two other things that I think, this is a perfect time that if there's something you've been thinking about Jewishly that you haven't done because life has been hard, this is the time to try it.
Yes.
See if it gives your family meaning. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. Try something else then. But this is the time to try something new in our Jewish life. If it's lighting Shabbat candles, if it's having that Shabbat dinner, if it's a chance to say, maybe we'll experiment with not eating milk and meat at the same time. There's things like that. And the final thing I would say about this is there are incredible educators, musicians around the world. And we as children and as adults often don't have the opportunity to learn from them because of the distance, of the financial barriers. And right now, every one of them is doing some incredible programming online.
No, incredible.
Whether it's to take a class at a place like the Shalom Hartman Institute or the Jewish Theological Seminary out of New York, or the Hartman Institutes in Jerusalem, they're offering free classes online.
Yes.
Take a chance. Take a class and see what it's like. You like music? There's incredible musicians that are doing free concerts with Jewish content weekly. I mean, almost every night of the week, you could fill your calendar with them.
It is incredible because you're mentioning that, and many of those programs, you had to wait until, we had somebody, like a congregation will invite one of these musicians to participate as their guests for the Shabbat services. And now we have them accessible. And when you mention having these resources, I put up right here on the website and people to see, this is very important because we have used some of these also. The Rabbinical Assembly has put together a guide, and this is one of many guides that are available where it give you information about how to do certain things at home. Sometimes it's daunting. It's daunting because you don't know what you need to do. But I think that during this time, the information is there. I know that, I don't want to offer you, but I know you mentioned this. If you have a question about something, if you don't have Dala at home, and you have a question, I know they can reach out to the congregation. They can reach out to the rabbi, whether or not it's Anshai Torah or their own congregation. Do it. Reach out to somebody. Try it. Experience it, because that's the only way that you can reconnect and maintain connection. And with that, I'm going to ask you a question, or I'm going to put a question. Cynthia asked us, how can one feel connected again if one feels wholly disconnected from our community? Thank you, Cynthia, for that question.
So Cynthia, thank you for the question, and I'll try to answer, but I apologize if I don't fully answer, because obviously there's a lot of nuance of what maybe you're looking for in here. But if I was feeling completely disconnected from the community, I think the first few things I would do is make sure to set up a few phone calls or FaceTimes or Zooms with somebody that could, a couple people that will help bring me back, make me feel re-engaged with other people. And maybe it's you, and I'm not saying you as a Cynthia, but like maybe it's each of us as I'm thinking, picking up the phone and calling someone from our community that we haven't talked to in a while. Mm-hmm. And one, it'll make us feel like we're part of a community, that we're checking in on each other. And two, think about the effect that it will have on the person who gets the random connection from each of us. And it's almost like that pay it forward idea, right? If each of us could just pick up the phone and call somebody that from our congregation, or if you're in another congregation, from your own congregation, mm-hmm. And just build community almost organically from the inside out, right? I think it's hard for us to create community for people, like forcing it upon you, and we're trying the best we can to make people feel connected. But I'm wondering if almost we need to build it from inside out, where our community kind of fostering that sense of connection and deeper relationship with one another. And certainly, that may be the way to do it.
And we have a couple more hello. So Jennifer sends us hi. Sandy and Philip Baylis says hi. Harold Babbage, he is enjoying and learning from the conversation. He says, for those who can't attend services in person, will virtual services be available in the future? Well, I think that one of the things that we're doing right now is that we're doing virtual services. So I put a link right here, and you can go to YouTube and just search for Congregation Anshai Torah, or you can click on this link, and this takes you to the channel. And right now, as you mentioned, when we were discussing Shabbat services, one of the things that we are implementing at the moment is that we are doing these Shabbat morning services.
So Hal, I think the question that you're asking, is maybe after the pandemic ends.
Oh, okay. So after the pandemic.
Maybe not. Maybe you're asking.
Well, if you're not asking, let's say, answer the question, Robert.
Certainly. I'll answer it both ways. Certainly, if you can't attend services, and obviously it's very limited right now, to protect the health of those who are helping to make a minyan, is that we want everyone to participate virtually on that service. But after the pandemic ends, if that's what you were asking, it's a conversation we're willing to have. And I'd say, I've said numerous times, for those who can't attend minyan because they're homebound or they're in a hospital or whatever the situation may be, live stream of service is incredibly beneficial. Okay, great. So it was after COVID. I'm glad I interpreted what you were saying correctly. So those people who are homebound or ill and can't get to shul, having a service that they can get on is totally worthwhile and what we should be doing. I think where my fear is, and again, we will have to explore this, is because I can stream it online, does that mean eventually, especially when people are not craving the interaction that we do right now, and you have it on a daily basis, will it mean streaming it online means I can roll out of bed a few minutes before services begin and do what I said we should not be doing, sit on the couch in your pajamas and feel that, and watch the shul. And then we don't have a minyan, or we have a very small group of people that actually build Judaism and feel that community that Cynthia was asking about. And that's where my real concern would be. But I think we're going to find a way to make all of this work and this new reality become an ongoing reality, and hopefully blend it with the very best of this and the very best of the interaction that we so desperately want again.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great answer, Rabbi. And we have a few more highs. So Diane puts a comment, but it's regarding Gilda. Gilda says hi. For some reason, her Facebook did not let her write a comment. We have hello from Debbie. Beth, say hi, everyone. Cynthia sent us a message, Rabbi. She says, this type of event is amazing. Hope to see more of this in the future. Great job. Oh, great job to the Rabbi. And she says, nice to see so many of you. Miss all. And, we send a kiss to Cynthia. Cynthia, I miss standing there in ushering, giving books with you. We give the sidurs in the morning Shabbat services. I know we will do that soon. So Rabbi, we get to the end, to the last part, not to the end, to the last part of this. Great. And this could not be a conversation with a rabbi before we get some teaching, right?
Sure, always happy to, but I'll keep it brief.
So we get to Kushnick's Corner. We're going to get to Kushnick's Corner, the moment where Rabbi gives us some teaching. Rabbi, so what can we learn today from you?
Great. So Chaim, I appreciate it. I'm always happy to teach, as you know. Let me just say a word that I think is related to the time that we're in, both the pandemic and also in our Jewish calendar. Literally last week, a week ago, we entered what is known as the 3 weeks. We began with Shiva Asar B'Tammuz, the 17th day of the month of Tammuz, which was when the walls of Jerusalem were breached. And it concludes in 2 weeks from now with Tisha B'Av, the destruction of both temples in Jerusalem. And the rabbis really teach us what led to this. Why did we go from this wonderful period of Jewish life of these temples standing to the temples falling? And the rabbis teach us that it comes from the idea of sinat chinam, that it comes from senseless hatred. And what was that senseless hatred? And it was really hatred directed at each other, that directed from Jews to other Jews, that we couldn't find a way to get along with one another. We couldn't find a way to put our community values above individual personal needs. And I think this idea, and we're literally, this is the 3 weeks, and we should be asking ourselves, how far have we come as Jews and as people from those periods that led to the destruction of the temple? And I'm actually really afraid that we haven't come very far. Right now, people are arguing every day, whether you should be doing this or that. I know one of the big topics is whether children should be going back to school in a few weeks. And if you have one view, somebody will say, well, you're horrible, that's the worst thing ever. And if you have the other point of view, then that person's going to get attacked. And can't we just hold different views and talk with one another? You don't have to convince them. You don't have to convince anyone else. But let us not be hating one another. Let us learn that I may think one thing and Chaim may think the other. That's okay. That's what led to the entire development of the Talmud. The Talmud is full of two rabbis, more than two rabbis in multiple places, arguing and saying, my point of view is right and my point of view is right. And in the end, they settle on a position. And they didn't convince each other, but they respected each other. And in fact, that's why the rabbis teach us Hillel's teachings are kind of the ones we gravitate to more often, because he had the courage and the respect for those he was in disagreement with, and often listed their point of view before his own. And I think there's so much value in that. And the last piece is, everyone was so focused on themselves that they weren't focused on the greater good of building the Jewish community of Israel and Jerusalem, and it led to the fall. And I think the conversations we're having in our country right now about whether our individual freedoms are infringed upon, whether we put on a mask or not, ask us the question, what did senseless hatred teach us? What did we learn from our Jewish people about communal values over our own? And I'm afraid, I hope we have time to correct it, but I'm really afraid of what we see right now, that we could very easily wind up in the same situation as our ancestors did, of fighting with one another and breaking down the communities that we try so hard to build. And instead of building ourselves up and talking about our disagreements, but having our communal values at the forefront. And I really hope we can get there.
Well, Rabbi, that was a great message, but I'm not going to let you go without an existential question. And this one comes from Mark Maches. Mark asks us, other than issues such as not actually working out of the shul or having online services, in what ways you and Rabbi Weinberg's job as rabbis has changed? I'm going to generalize it a little bit, and I'm not going to ask you to answer it whole, but where do you see yourself as a rabbi during and post-COVID? Do you feel that your job, you always will be a rabbi, your job as a rabbi is always there, and there's some duties that always will be there? Yeah. Do you feel that COVID have changed the way that you rabbi?
Well, I'm doing this, that's for sure. A few months ago, I don't think I would have ever had an Anshai live program, but it's fun. It's fun. Thank you, Chaim. But I think in a lot of ways, no, my job hasn't changed, really. But what I find myself doing more, which I don't think is a bad thing, is making personal calls, connecting with people personally that we don't often see. So that's one. And I think the other one is it's actually giving me a lot of creativity, time to be creative. And what I mean by that, we were talking about the high holidays before, but every year before, you knew what you were going to expect when you walked into the high holidays. Mm-hmm. Walk in, we were going to have, a 4.5 hour service, 4 hour, give or take, with a couple sermons, and you knew what the liturgy was. Maybe we make a few changes, make it more, personal each year, more engaging, but we're kind of within it. Now there's nothing in our Jewish life that we've ever done before. Uh-huh. Everything is new, which is actually very creative. Obviously, there's certain norms we are going to hold on to, and I'm not, saying that we're going to get rid of everything, but how we experience it, how we package it, how we connect with one another is all new, and that's all creative stuff. And I'm really, I'm excited about that, and that does energize me.
All right, great. Well, let's say two more highs. Andrew Silver, he's in Idaho right now. He was in Utah yesterday, and he's in Idaho right now. And Sheila Stern says hi. Well, Rabbi, we come to the end of the show.
Wonderful.
Our first Anshai Live. I hope that you had a great time. I hope that everybody watching had a great time. We had incredible questions, comments. It was so good to see many of our friends and at this point, people that we miss to see in person, but that we enjoy connecting. Rabbi, we will have many more of these.
Looking forward.
I'm hoping that we continue these. People liking it. So thank you again. Thank you for not only for the teaching. That was incredible. That was so in tune to what we are living today. And thank you for sharing your thoughts on coronavirus and Judaism.
Of course. Thank you. It was really, this was a pleasure. I look forward to our next one, Chaim. And I think we have one scheduled for a few weeks from now, and I look forward to doing it. So,
yeah. And for anybody who wants to hear something, some kind of topic, they want us to talk about something in particular, send us a private message through Facebook, and we can see it, and we can start collecting some of those topics, and we create a whole season of these shows.
Looking forward. Send them away.
Well, Rabbi, thank you very much again.
Thank you, Chaim.
Good night.
And thank you to everyone who joined us. And thank you to everyone who joined us.
Yeah, we got a great viewership today. So thank you for everybody, and thank you, Rabbi, and good night.
Laila Tov, everyone.